All right, welcome. Welcome to the miracle work today. And it's great to meet you here today. We're looking at chapter 4 and 5. Well, today, chapter 4, continuing with that. And this time it is the escape from fear. And that's a great idea, to escape from fear. If fear would disappear, that would be wonderful. And so today I do it a little different. So this part, escape from fear, is very familiar to me. I read it many times because I actually like the rhythm of it. The rhythm is pretty, it's beautiful. It's like there's an amount of ideas, and then there's the response of this need not be. This need not be. Like all the things that you think, and then no, this needs not be. So there's a really beautiful rhythm of undoing, say, inherent in the piece. And that's why I was invited to, to express it a little different, even as a visual, with some music. So I composed some music that is related to it. It's like there's a rhythm in that too, in a certain sense, but it supports the words. And now, what we're doing here now today in class is then I will read it too, record it and read it, but at the same time it is like it's not a complete text. So I will go through the different symptoms like sadness, anxiety, fear, this and this and this, all this stuff, guilt. Oh yeah, guilt was another one. All the stuff that doesn't need to be, I will go through, because they're actually, Jesus actually giving suggestions, giving you ideas in which this can dissolve. So we don't want to miss out on that either. So to give you then the full scope of it, we start with the 4-minute video with the music, where you see in fact everything already passing in front of your eyes. And then we go a little deeper into the specific aspects of it. And I'll do that just by the use of the Urtext manuscripts as the PDF as we know it. I'll share the screen with you. All right, so that's a bit of the program today, and it's interesting to see that the way that it's being expressed becomes really like an inspiration in itself. Like it's beautiful. I feel moved to make this and feel moved to do this, but then it is like it is so beautiful to use this text, say, in a different way for myself, like to bring it visually or however to expression, just because, see, there's no need, and this would be very difficult for one person, for one like you or me, that is sensitive to the idea of guilt, and doesn't even feel guilty, or can feel guilty about not doing it right, like missing the completedness of this. Like, so what I mean to say is this, is like, if I would just go through the text, if I would just mention what is being said, you can even use that against yourself, and that need not be either. So that's why this came to me to share it this way, and later on we go through the aspects of it. So I said that. All right, so listen to this. The calm being of God's kingdom, which in your sane mind is perfectly conscious, is ruthlessly banished from the part of mind of which the ego rules. The ego is desperate because it opposes literally invincible odds. Whether you are asleep or awake, consider how much vigilance you have been willing to exert to protect your ego, and how little you have been willing to exert to protect your higher mind. Who but the insane would undertake to believe what is not true and then protect this belief at the cost of truth? If you cannot hear the voice of God, it is because you do not listen. The fact that you do listen to the voice of your ego is demonstrated by your attitudes, your feelings and your behavior. Your attitudes are obviously conflicted. Your feelings have a narrow range on the negative side, but are never purely joyous, and your behavior is either strained or unpredictable. Yet, this is what you want, and this is what you are fighting to keep, and what you are vigilant to save. Your minds are filled with schemes to save the face of your egos, and you do not seek the face of God. The glass in which the ego seeks to see its face is dark indeed. How can it maintain the trick of its existence except with mirrors? But where you look to find yourself is up to you. We have said that you cannot change your mind by changing your behavior, but we've also said that many times before that you can change your mind. When your mood tells you that you are willed wrong, that you have willed wrongly, and this is so whenever you are not joyous, then no, this need not be. When you are sad, know that this need not be. When you are anxious, know that all anxiety comes from the capriciousness of the ego and need not be. As long as you feel guilty, your ego is in command, because only the ego can experience guilt. This need not be. I'm not unmindful of your efforts, but you have still too much energy invested in your ego. This need not be. When you have given up this voluntary dispiriting, you have already seen how your mind can focus and rise above fatigue and heal. But you are not sufficiently vigilant against the demands of your ego that you disengage yourself. This need not be. Have you really considered how many opportunities you have had to gladden yourselves, and how many of them you have refused? There is no limit to the power of a Son of God, but He Himself can limit the expression of His power as much as He wills. Your mind and mine can unite in shining your ego away and releasing the strength of God into everything you think and will and do. Do not settle for anything less than this, and refuse to accept anything but this as your goal. So if you cannot hear the voice of God, it is because you do not choose to listen. So that's a really great one, because not to hurt yourself with it, but just to state the fact, like, yes, okay, apparently I'm not listening, otherwise I would hear the voice of God, say, instructing me or guiding me. And if I do listen, then I know this is true. Like there's simplicity to this, not complexity. The fact that you do listen to the voice of your ego is demonstrated by your attitudes, your feelings, and your behavior. Your attitudes. Your attitudes are obviously conflicted. Your feelings have a narrow range on the negative side, but are never purely joyous. And your behavior is either strained or unpredictable. Oh, well, maybe that's some time to get honest with ourselves. Your attitudes are obviously conflicted. Your feelings have a narrow range on the negative side, but are never purely joyous. And your behavior is either strained or unpredictable. Okay. I'm sorry, but the question is raised. Do you recognize this? Yep. Yep. Strained and unpredictable, never purely joyous. Do you know what purely joyous is? Like, do you know what purely joyous is? Then you know what this is about. Like, then you know what that is, and also how much you have kept yourself from it. So these things are just all related to your honesty. You can read 1,000 spiritual books. You can do whatever you like, of course. You can meditate as long as you want. But the question is, are you purely joyous? Like with no opposite. Do you know what that is? Do you experience that today? Do you experience that? Purely joyous, with no restriction, no restraint. Do you recognize yourself as, say, emotional patterns on the narrow band on the negative side? That sounds very human, right? It's like, I don't know. I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't know. No, I don't know. I don't want that. I don't want that. I don't want that. You know this behavior very well. You're limiting continuously. It's like, no, that doesn't belong to me. No, that doesn't belong to me. And so you live your day. It's like a narrow band on the negative side, but never purely joyous. Why not give that? Why not give that purely joyousness to one another? Purely joyous. You know, these things are about honesty. It's like, can you at least admit that that's the case? So not that you have to change anything, any behavior or anything. We'll come to that later. It's like that has nothing to do with it, but are you willing to admit? Like, yeah, poor man, unpredictable. I use my unpredictability just to give myself some freedom. So it's like that's very common human behavior. So it's good to take a look at it, even though it's still early in the morning or maybe at night. So it's very interesting to hear this, right? Yeah. So by your attitude, like your attitude is obviously conflicted. Now, who does not have an experience of that? We all have. Yeah, we all have. Yeah, absolutely. So, obviously conflicted. Now, see, the case here is not to make yourself guilty or to make yourself difficult to... No, this is about letting that come into your awareness for your help, not to punish you, not to shame or blame you, not to do anything else with it. No, just to notice. It's like, oh my God, yeah, I wasn't even aware. I wasn't even aware. And now suddenly, boom, there it is. Ah, that feels good actually to admit it too. I don't have to hold up an image that I don't do that and that I'm this perfect spiritual being that is in full control of itself. Like, that is not being asked of you. No, to admit all your failure, in fact, is much more helpful. And not staying with that, but at least admitting it. Yeah, I speak from deep experience, like to holding up an image in which you think that you know and that you know how to behave as a perfect spiritual being. Well, good luck with that. It's a waste of time. So even though you might do it with the purpose of, yes, but I'm created perfect, so I will have to behave perfect too. It's like, no, no, no. That has nothing to do with it. So that's quite a relief, isn't it? Well, we continue too. So there's more, but this was already a really good one. Did we skip anything? No, no. Oh well, listening to the voice of the ego. Well, the ego's voice is loud and quick. Like it will always have a response to everything. So it's very quick. It's very much alert to, and it screams. It screams. It's loud. That's why there's a tendency to listen to it, to your ideas about what should happen, what your response is to what you see, what everything that has to do with perception is related to the voice of your ego. Okay. Yet this is what you want. You want it. Otherwise it wouldn't be happening. This is what you are fighting to keep and what you are vigilant to save. So you spent an, say, an proportional idea, like a proportionate idea. No. You say spend a proportionate deal of the day doing this, fighting to keep and vigilant to save. Your minds are filled with schemes to save the face of your egos and do not seek the face of God. And of course it changes in your spiritual process. It changes, but see, the first thing is recognizing it and being open to take a look at it. Otherwise there's no need to listen to this. It's like, are you willing to admit that this might be the case? Like there's a chance that this might be right. So your minds are filled with schemes to save the face of your egos, and that is basically also very unconscious most of the time. You don't even know that you're doing it, but you bump your head and you see like, well, I'm not wholly joyous. I'm feeling all this anxiety. Oh my God, I feel all this fear. Where does that come from? Well, it comes from the mind that is filled with schemes to save the face of your egos. It's like your image of yourself. Instead of looking for the face of God, seeking the face of God. So the glass in which the ego seeks to see its face is dark indeed. How can it maintain the trick of its existence except with mirrors? It needs to look at things and needs itself to be reflected in it. That's how it keeps itself in place. But where you look to find yourself is up to you. Like you don't need to look in mirrors to see yourself. We have said that you cannot change your mind by changing your behavior. Like this perfect spiritual person who knows to behave well as this perfect spiritual being. So it is not that then you are fully realized in as your spiritual being, but you at least behave like it, and that's not progress. No, you don't change your mind by changing your behavior. But we've also said, and many times before, that you can change your mind. So you can actually do something with your mind. You don't have to keep repeating the same stuff. You don't have to repeat the same schemes as you were used to. And of course, you all have your individual experiments with trying to change your behavior and seeing that it actually did not bring about a change. Well, smokers smokers or ex-smokers that are gathered here. And maybe you never smoke, but this is a nice example. Like, you can not pick up a cigarette, but that doesn't make you not addicted to it. You can put somebody in jail for 20 years, say, of possession of drugs and addiction to drugs. And what will be the first thing when somebody comes out of the jail? It would be that he is looking for his drugs because nothing changed. So there are so many examples of that. And also, look around. Like the happening that's occurring in your life, so many things are just, say, not changing, even though you try to change your behavior. Well, look at that. Look at that. There are many examples. I think it's great to be aware of the fact that you don't have to change your behavior in order to change your mind. You might as well change your mind. If you know who you are, like if you allow a transformation of your mind to occur, if you know who you are, you will behave differently. But that's a whole different spiel. I love that. So this is great too. I think I'm going to pull up the Urtext. Here's that, the escape from fear. Now I go to the places where it actually says this need not be. So let me see where the first time is, because it's really beautiful to see how this comes about. Okay. Oh yeah, so here on top of this page, here, think honestly what you have thought that God would not have thought, and what you have not thought that God would have you think. Well, you can spend another day with that idea. Think honestly what you have thought that God would not have thought, and what you have not thought that God would have you think. Search sincerely for what you have done and left undone accordingly. Like, you did do a lot of things, sure. You were very, very busy. But now we're actually going to take a look at what you did, what you left undone, what you did not do, what actually would bring you all the happiness in the universe. And then change your minds to think with God. Like that was the last thing you wanted to do because you were so busy doing the things that you did as you in your existence. So we're speaking really from the human mind in its transition to God mind. This may seem hard to you, but it is much easier than trying to think against it. Oh, so that's great to hear that. It's like, imagine that you hear this for the first time. This may seem hard to you, but it is much easier than trying to think against it. Like I think things too. I think things, and I really think that's going to help me, but actually it is trying to think against what God wants for me, which is perfect happiness. Well, unless I experience that, I'm not thinking with God. So that is okay. Yeah, now I got it. So it's like having a lot of patience with yourself, because you want to be so independent and so self-sufficient. You really want to do this by yourself, and it's not working, and you know it, and you have a hard time admitting that. Maybe, huh? So as a loving brother, Jesus says, I'm deeply concerned with your minds and urge you to follow my example as you look at yourselves and at each other and see in both the glorious creations of a glorious Father. Well, I join Jesus in that. Are you? Like, as a loving brother, I'm deeply concerned with your minds and urge you to follow my example as you look at yourself and at each other and see in both the glorious creations of a glorious Father. that's what you want to see. So, in other words, because we like to become practical here, when you are sad, know that this need not be. Oh, so there's some more words here. When you are sad, know that this need not be. Depression always arises ultimately from a sense of being deprived of something you want and do not have. Know you are deprived of nothing except by your own decisions, and then decide otherwise. Yeah, that's so logical. I should not forget that. When you are anxious, know that all anxiety comes from the capriciousness of the ego. So capricious, that's almost like a Capricorn or something. It sounds like a Capricorn. Let me see what it means. Capricious. Capricious. Well, here it is. Given to sudden and unaccountable changes of mood or behavior. Unpredictable, in other words. It's like unpredictable. So, oh, that was the unpredictable that we were talking about just a moment ago too. So when you are sad, know this need not be. When you're anxious, know that all anxiety comes from the unpredictability of the ego, the capriciousness of the ego, and need not be. You can be as vigilant against the ego's dictates as for them. Oh, right, I have a choice, in other words. When you feel guilty, know that your ego has indeed violated the laws of God, but you have not. Leave the sins of the ego to me. That is what the atonement is for. But until you change your mind about those your ego has hurt, the atonement cannot release you. And as long as you feel guilty, your ego is in command, because only the ego can experience guilt. This need not be. Well, see, that's great. So we all know the feeling of guilt, and you really think it's you experiencing it, and so you have to see it that it's not you, that it's really your ego mind, so to speak. It's not you in your essence. No, not at all. So it's like it becomes different when you really start to dive into this a little bit. It becomes different for you to experience it. So in other words, I can hold on to it. I can be guilty as guilty as I want myself to be in my imagination. I can really do that. I was really good at that too. Actually, I did it a lot. It's like feeling guilty about the things that I thought, the things that I did, the things that all of this. Like, yeah, that was quite something. So until I changed my mind about myself, knowing that I'm not that, that I'm actually having a choice. Like, there is no such thing as guilt. There is no such thing as the ego. There is no such thing. So it's like, if you recognize that for yourself, then you also recognize there's no need for me to feel guilty. There's no need for me to feel guilty. Now, with your human mind, like speaking from experience, this is all I do. It's like I just speak from experience. Like recognizing that even an expression like that might set you free to do things that you actually better not do. Don't do them. Yeah, I'm just speaking from experience. Is what I'm saying. It's like you literally go into every detail to see what you can do and what you cannot do. So what it means when there is no guilt, there's no such thing as guilt. What it means is that if you listen to the voice for God and let yourself be guided to do whatever you need to do, then something happens. Then something fundamentally, constructively changes through you. But up to that point, you're just using everything you can to still attack yourself. That's the big difference. Like I said, speaking from deep experience, very painful things, but changing my mind about myself, I'm relieved of it. So are so are the reflections. Like that changes immediately too. You change your mind about yourself, recognizing that there's no such thing as guilt, for instance, that God's will for me is perfect happiness. That changes everything. That gives me the space to experience that too and see that reflected instead of my own guilt. So this is quite deep. This is quite deep, and it saves you a lot of time if you listen to this well. Like it saves you a lot of suffering if you listen to this well, and really try to get it. And also try, say, using this to listen to the still small voice, not the loud, noisy, screaming voice, the still small voice guiding you through all of this, all the time, with no exception. Okay, it's so beautiful. I love this. So this is when you feel guilty. So that's all taken care of now. See here, Jesus continues in E9. I'm doing it afterwards, after this. I am not mindful of your efforts, but you still have too much energy invested in your egos. This needs not to be. So watch your minds for the temptations of the ego and do not be deceived by it. No, it offers you nothing. So now we skip to E11. When you have given up this voluntary dispiriting, we used this word before, dispiriting and inspiriting. You love to be inspirited but not dispirited. When you have given up this voluntary dispiriting, you have already seen how your mind can focus, like we have experienced with that now a little bit, and rise above fatigue and heal. Oh yes, yes, now you mention it. It's like, yeah, the last time I felt I had so much fatigue, I was so tired of it all. But something changed and suddenly I didn't feel that for a moment. Actually, some healing took place and I felt the inspiration. I felt light in my mind instead of the dullness and the grey clouds and all of this. But you are not sufficiently vigilant against the demands of your ego and that you disengage yourself. This needs not be. The habit of engaging with God and His creations is easily made if you refuse actively to let your mind slip away. So the habit of engaging with God and His creations is easily made if you refuse actively to let your mind slip away. So the mind slipping away part, we have to take a look at that, like mind slipping away. Oh yeah, this is your attention, like you already are thinking about tomorrow, what you're going to do, or the shopping that you're going to do, and you're going to get this thing, and whatever, just to mention something. That's the slipping away of the mind. No, we're here. Hello. The habit of engaging with God and His creations is easily made if you refuse actively actively to let your mind slip away. So here it is. Your problem is not concentration. You're focused on something, like the mind cannot not. So that you're focused on something. It is a belief that nobody, including yourself, is worth consistent effort. Oh my. It's like the problem is not concentration. Like there's nothing wrong with your focus here. There's nothing wrong with your concentration, but there's something wrong with your motivation, which is like the belief that nobody, including yourself, is worth consistent effort. But that's where the whole crux is. Like that is a huge sentence. You think it's not worth it, that you are not worth it to go through all of this. You think like, well, I don't know. I don't know if that's worth it. Like if I'm worth it, consistent effort. So this is really where the slippery side is. You could say like here you slide back into, like you relapse into the human behavior. You relapse into it by just like, wow, well, what the heck? Well, oh well. So it's like you're very generous to yourself with letting yourself slip away into, yeah, enjoying yourself with in fact with nothing. But that's a real discovery. Like that's something that is you need to refuse actively. And this is why this is a constant practice. It's not like a realization in which this you turn the knob and everything is fine from that moment. It's like no. Actively refusing to let your mind slip away, no matter how enlightened you are, you could say. So that's a good one too. Side with me consistently against this deception as we have sided against it briefly already. Do not permit this shabby belief to pull you back. The disheartened are useless to themselves and to me, but only the ego can be disheartened. So it can never be you in your beingness. So now I have to take a look at this one more time. Do not permit the shabby belief to pull you back. So, and you say like, well, how do I know that this is actually going, that's actually the occurrence? Like, why is that actually the occurrence? Why shabby? So why? What is that? And then you come back to the beginning. It's like, whenever you're not wholly, fully joyous, you already made a bargain with yourself. You already think like, well, that's good enough. That's good enough. Like, no, don't do that. Don't do that. So you have to stay vigilant continuously, you could say, not to become a neurotic Course in Miracles student or anything like that, but it's like you have to stay vigilant because you're going to hurt yourself when you slide off into this shabby idea about yourself, thinking that you're not worthy of it, to undergo all this in order to be restored to your sanity. Like, no, this is your birthright. This is your, like, miracles are natural. It's not that it's something special. No, it's natural. It is part of you, but you have believed at times, and still it might come back at some point. Like it might come back during the day a couple of times, that you start to doze off, like dozing off, like falling asleep again into the dream of temptation that presents to you that it has something for you, and it does not. So Yeah, that's quite something. But see, we don't do this to take all things away from you that you want to be dreaming about. No, this is about the recognition of your true being. This is about, it's like the pure joyousness that is yours. This is about complete fulfillment. And this is about total overwhelming gratitude for what your Creator is giving you. This is about loving your Father with all of your heart, all of your mind, all of your soul, all of it, like all of it. No exceptions, no deal, no bargains, no exceptions, really. So that's why we stay vigilant against this dozing off into an idea that, say, this world or outside of me has to offer something to complete myself. That's the part we don't do anymore. Like, we're vigilant against that. And not to be hard on yourself, not to limit yourself, not at all. It's like it's the opposite way. So that's why this is such a beautiful practical. It's such a practical chapter, because it's about the fundamental things that we encounter as a human being: anxiety, worthlessness, guilt, fear. Well, fear is in fact the central name for all of this. Depression, fatigue. Well, these are kind of popular terms in the ego world, like very popular terms, where actually, yeah, is there a lot of relief? Is there a lot of healing going on with that? Sure. Now we start it for ourselves. Now we allow that to change in ourselves by recognizing our true source, by recognizing that not this, not this, not this. Stay alert, like all the things that you have done so far, we leave for what they are. Now we come to the part that has been undone so far, like not done at all so far. For instance, listening to the voice for God completely as your pure guidance to your happiness, to your completion. Like that's integrated in the vision of Christ. It's integrated in the will of God, which is you. All right, well, let me see how far we got. Oh my God, time is flying. So, going to pick up a prayer and I can attack but my own sinlessness, and it is only that, my sinlessness, that keeps me safe. I can attack but my own sinlessness, and it is only that which keeps me safe. Father, your Son is holy. I am he on whom you smile in love and tenderness so deep and dear that still the universe smiles back on you and shares your holiness. How pure, how safe, how sacred, then, are we, whoa, abiding in your smile. That is so beautiful. With all your love bestowed upon us, living one with you in brotherhood and fatherhood, complete, in sinlessness so perfect that the Lord of sinlessness conceives us as his Son. A universe of thought completing him. Let us not then attack our sinlessness, for it contains the Word of God to us, and in its kind reflection we are saved. So I can attack only my own sinlessness, and it is only that which keeps me safe. So that is my sinlessness, and not the attack, of course. This is so beautiful. Wow. So pure, so complete, so lovely. And so like the smile of the universe is where we abide. The smile of the universe. Oh. So, miracle workers, thank you for your attention. And thank you for everything. And see you soon. Thank you so much.